Having spent a lifetime supporting each other through thick and thin with my husband, I was unexpectedly reborn back to my university days. Thrilled beyond words, I rushed to find my husband, only to see him standing under the dormitory building confessing his feelings to the campus bell. Missing out on you would be the greatest regret of my life. Chloe, you've been standing in front of the mirror for at least half an hour. What are you doing? Of course, it's to admire my beauty. I gazed intoxicated at the slender girl in the mirror, her toned waistline, long legs, fair and delicate skin, without a single wrinkle on her face. Was this really what I looked like at 18? Being young is truly wonderful. Stop admiring yourself. It's lively downstairs. Ethan is waiting by the door with flowers, and who knows who he's about to confess to. My roommate Dana pushed the door open, holding a cup of boba milk tea, eagerly sharing the gossip with me, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Ethan? Ethan! I smacked my forehead. I'd been so preoccupied with admiring my own youthful and beautiful body that I'd completely forgotten about my husband. Grabbing a coat at random, I dashed downstairs toward the dormitory. Ethan must have been reborn together with me. His body rejuvenated, his mindset grew younger too. Who'd have thought he'd actually send me flowers now? The last time he gave me flowers was probably the year I gave birth to Leo. The only bouquet in this lifetime. He claimed it was to thank me for bearing the Jones family heir. Thinking of Leo, I touched my flat belly. Oh, and there are abs too. Leo, my darling Leo, just let mommy enjoy a few more happy years. Let me savor my youth a little longer before bringing you into this world. Ethan and I were a campus couple, walking all the way through university to the marriage altar. We've fought, broken up, made scenes. We've been poor, struggled, grown rich, and even gone bankrupt. During our poorest days, we lived together in a basement, eating instant noodles for every meal. When the craving became unbearable, we'd add a packet of spicy sauce. When we struck it rich, we bought a villa. Ethan even purchased separate houses for his parents and younger siblings. This is how we supported each other through life's stumbles and tumbles, hand in hand till the very end. In our past lives, we were so preoccupied with building businesses and accumulating wealth that when we suddenly found ourselves old, we realized we'd focused solely on work, neither truly living nor properly seeing the world. If we could start over, we'd definitely travel more and do everything we wanted but never had the time or energy for. Ethan stood at the dormitory door holding a bouquet of flowers. Perhaps nervous, his hand pressed against his pants, his middle finger constantly picking at the seam. I burst out laughing. The year we graduated, the two of us started an e-commerce company together. Ethan was introverted and quiet by nature, not particularly good at socializing and even a bit socially anxious. For the sake of business, he pushed himself to learn small talk and pleasantries. That nervous habit developed during that time. Great, Ethan has indeed been reborn with me. Chloe, what are you looking at? My roommate and best friend Sophia poked my arm, also curiously gazing toward the entrance. At that moment, Ethan happened to turn his head. Sunlight spilled across his youthful, handsome face, his eyes shimmering with flecks of golden light. When he saw me, he shyly pursed his lips and smiled, revealing two faint dimples. Ethan, at 18, will always make my heart flutter. Ethan walked toward me holding flowers. Just like in our past life, his every step, my entire lifetime. I took a deep breath and opened my arms, ready to embrace my happiness once again. Sophia Davis, I've liked you for a very long time. Missing you would be the greatest regret of my life. Would you give me a chance to be your girlfriend? Sophia was visibly flustered. Blushing, she glanced around as many classmates nearby began cheering her on. Say yes, say yes, say yes. I blankly withdrew my hand, only to realize Ethan was gazing ardently at Sophia. His eyes were frank and burning. The world bustled around them, yet he saw only Sophia in his sight. I stood beside Sophia like a white backdrop, with Ethan not even glancing in my direction. So, after a lifetime of marriage to me, has Ethan actually always loved Sophia? Staggering back 2 steps, the memories from my past life flooded my mind. That day, a light drizzle fell as I rushed out to fetch a package. Sophia said she left my umbrella at the library and insisted on giving me her jacket and hat to wear. She said the jacket was waterproof and that I might catch a cold if I got wet in the cold weather. Wearing her clothes, I rushed outside, only to bump into Ethan the moment I stepped out of the dorm. He grabbed my arm with his head lowered. I like you. Be my girlfriend. I've liked Ethan for a long time. I fell for him right at the start of the semester. The boy I'd secretly admired for so long confessed his feelings to me in the rain. That's when I first began to love rainy days. No wonder after Ethan and I got together, he rarely initiated texts with me or asked me out. I thought he was just introverted by nature and didn't care for mushy displays of affection. Most importantly, I was completely stunned by the stroke of luck that fell from the sky. I threw myself headfirst into this relationship, blinded by passionate love. How absurd. Ethan must have mistaken me for Sophia back then, right? So the first thing he did after being reborn was to start fresh with Sophia. A lifetime of companionship still could never compare to that eternal white moonlight in one's heart. I took a step back, then another. Ethan was nervously awaiting Sophia's response, his forehead glistening with sweat from the agitation. A droplet trickled past his eyebrow into his eye, yet he forced his eyes wide open, afraid that even a blink might make him miss Sophia's reply. My heart plummeted like a lead weight, as if I'd swallowed a mouthful of ice cubes in the dead of winter. How rare, even when we went together to meet our most important clients in our past lives, Ethan had never been this nervous. When I was giving birth, his parents insisted on me having a natural delivery, saying C-sections were bad for the baby. But Leo was absorbing nutrients well at the time, and the doctor estimated he weighed over 7 pounds. For a baby that big, the doctor recommended a C-section. Pale-faced, I lay in bed gripping Ethan's hand and asked him if he was nervous now that I was about to give birth. Ethan just said casually, "Modern medicine is very advanced. Don't worry unnecessarily." After saying that, he went to sit aside and play with his phone. I was extremely angry at the time, but when I came out of the delivery room after giving birth, he gave me a bouquet of flowers. That's just like Ethan, slapping you first, then giving you candy. Never nervous about childbirth, never nervous about meeting clients, never nervous about our son taking college exams, nor even nervous about his son getting married. But why was he, having lived 2 lives, this nervous during the confession? I looked intently at Ethan, the man I had loved my entire life. His face overlapped with the shadow in my memories, yet shattered the beautiful dream I had nurtured for a lifetime. Be together, be together, be together. The surrounding world was noisy and chaotic, the voices fading in and out, while the figures before me seemed to blur and duplicate. I pinched the palm of my hand. I think I might be getting heat stroke. I need to think about it a bit more. Sophia grew flustered under the crowd's teasing gazes. She glanced around at the surrounding faces before casting me a pleading look. At that moment, Ethan finally noticed me. Holding the bouquet, he strode towards me and then firmly gripped my arm. "Chloe, it's great to see you here too. You're the closest to Sophia. Please, help me talk some sense into her. I've really liked her for many years. I promise I'll treat Sophia very, very well in the future. Please, help me." The gorgeous sunset bathed Ethan in a soft golden glow. I looked at his partially shadowed silhouette against the light, my memory pulling me back to the year we started our business. By the time we finished work at the company, it was already past midnight with no buses or subways running. Taking a taxi was naturally out of the question. The distance between our home and the company was quite far, and $30 plus could cover a whole day's living expenses for both of us. The winter streets left our toes numb with cold, but as I walked with Ethan, puffing out breaths of fog, my heart couldn't help but overflow with joy. Though life was hard and fraught with difficulties, I wasn't trudging alone. With someone dear by my side, the future held promise, and the road ahead was bright. Ethan rarely took the initiative to hold my hand. He thanked me for being willing to endure hardships with him and promised that he'd surely give me a better life in the future. He said he loved me, that liar. Liar. This is between the two of us, why take it out on Chloe? A clear, melodious voice rang out as Sophia stepped forward, linking her arm with mine and tossing a reserved chin lift in Ethan's direction. "I need to think about this a bit more. You can head back for now. Let's go, Chloe, time for lunch." With that, Sophia pulled my absent-minded self away, leaving behind an equally dazed Ethan. "Earth to Chloe." Sophia waved her hand in front of my eyes. "Your noodles will turn mushy if you don't eat them soon. You look so preoccupied. What's wrong?" I bit my chopsticks, my heart a turmoil of mixed emotions. "So, you're rejecting Ethan?" No sooner had I cautiously voiced the question than I felt utterly ridiculous. Reborn into my college years, both Ethan and I are free now. Legally speaking, he owes me nothing, those promises were from a past life anyway. Now we're neither married nor in a relationship. He truly has every right to pursue happiness anew. Hey, if I had to say yes to whatever he says, what would that make me? Men only cherish what they can't easily get. "Just ignore him for a couple days, see how he behaves," Sophia said nonchalantly. With so many guys pursuing her, Ethan, despite his delicate features, wasn't exactly some drop-dead handsome Prince Charming. I took a sip of noodle soup to swallow down the bitterness rising in my chest, unable to suppress a twinge of envy toward Sophia. Sophia came from a well-off family. Her father owned a company and her mother worked as a government employee. Unlike Ethan and me, small-town kids through and through, Sophia carried that unshakable confidence and pride only city-bred children seem to possess. The things I yearn for but cannot obtain are as common as dust to others. Ethan wasn't crushed by Sophia's rejection, having lived a second life. His psychological resilience had grown significantly stronger. He started appearing daily beneath our dormitory building, diligently bringing Sophia all sorts of gifts. Flowers, milk tea, snacks, fried chicken. Our dorm mates, softened by these treats, began teasing Sophia mercilessly. From the initial heartbreak and sorrow to anger and resentment, my mindset quickly settled within just a few days. Ethan never even considered that I might also be reborn. The way he looked at me was as if I were a complete stranger. To avoid any misunderstanding with Sophia, he even proactively blocked me on social media. 60 years of depending on each other for survival, without romantic love, was there not even familial affection? Only then did I realize how utterly mistaken I had been. I loved Ethan all my life, while he might have simply endured me all his. In our youth, we came together because of a misunderstanding. He was too thin-skinned to bring up breaking up. Later, I helped him too much, even paying for my own dowry when I got married. He felt indebted and found it even harder to speak up. This long life of mine is nothing short of a beautiful fairy tale. Yet for Ethan, it was nothing but a suffocating prison. He doesn't love me, yet he can't leave me. Now that he's finally broken free from his cage, why would he want to be involved with me again? Sophie, are you really not going to accept Ethan? Dana nibbled on the braised chicken feet Ethan had bought, her eyes sparkling with gossipy curiosity. Sophia was wearing a face mask, afraid to speak too loudly, her voice squeezed out as if from the depths of her throat. Hold your horses, Rome wasn't built in a day. Of course we need to thoroughly test a man. I was engrossed in reading when suddenly a question occurred to me. Where did Ethan get the money to buy so many things? It suddenly occurred to me that our department offers an annual high-value scholarship. Each year, one selected student receives $10,000. And this spot, actually, was one I willingly gave up for Ethan. Coming from the same small town with equally poor families, my grades have always been better than Ethan's, and my home situation was even more difficult than his. Even the academic advisor told me straight up that I was the more suitable candidate for this opportunity. But when I thought about Ethan's eternally faded genes, I ultimately let him have it and chose to earn my living expenses through part-time work instead. Right now, I just want to slap myself hard twice. After all, the scholarship money just arrived, and isn't Ethan flush with cash? All that money, and he used it to chase after Sophia. The thought made me furious. I stood up abruptly and snatched the box of chicken feet from Dana's hands. I want some too. Dana was startled. What's wrong? Starving to death? Go ahead, eat it all. Oh, hey, Chloe. Did you know the school just announced a new Alumni Association scholarship? I slapped my thigh while gnawing on a chicken foot. How could I have forgotten this? There's a senior in our department, Ryan Peterson, who graduated 2 years ago and became a successful entrepreneur. Rumor has it he raised hundreds of millions in funding. This time he happened to collaborate with our university on a research project. On a whim, he decided to sponsor 2 students from our department. One spot went to the class next door, and the other fell to Ethan. Of course, it was still me who let him have it. Unlike the school scholarship, the one provided by Ryan covered all tuition and living expenses for all 4 years of university, money that later became Ethan's startup capital after graduation. I spat out the chicken feet from my mouth and sprinted toward the academic advisor's office in a whirlwind. In my past life, I voluntarily withdrew from the campaign, but this time, I absolutely couldn't let the opportunity slip through my fingers. I dashed straight to the advisor's office, leaning against the doorframe, panting so hard I could barely catch my breath. A tall, straight-backed figure stood in the office, silhouetted against the light, making their features indistinct, but that familiarly cool voice was unmistakable. Professor, since Chloe has already given up this spot, why not let me have it? W8. I gasped for breath, glaring at Ethan with daggers in my eyes if looks could kill. Professor, hold on, I'd like to make one last appeal for this position. The advisor's eyes lit up at the sight of me. Ah, Chloe, so you've finally come around, that's more like it. Juggling part-time jobs every day affects your studies terribly. With your talent, you really should focus more on your academics. Ethan stared at me in disbelief. Clearly my behavior had somewhat exceeded his comprehension. Chloe, haven't you always refused scholarships before? Seeing Ethan standing so close, my heart involuntarily contracted violently. Chloe, I really need this money desperately. Could you possibly yield this opportunity to me? Ethan lowered his head to gaze intently at me, his beautiful eyes downcast with a pleading expression. I could never resist Ethan like this. In the past, whenever he wore that look, I'd try to pluck the moon from the sky if he asked. Chloe, won't you help me? How familiar those words sounded. He'd said them countless times throughout our long yet fleeting lifetime. Chloe, my younger brother's grown now and wants to marry. As his sister-in-law, could you bear to see him stay single forever? Chloe, my sister is getting married. Her partner doesn't have good prospects, so buy her an apartment. That way she can hold her head high in her in-laws' home. Chloe, my parents are getting old. I want them to move in with us so we can take better care of them. Amid endless cries of Chloe, you're the best, I kept giving in, kept compromising, until I became the one with the worst health in the family. Because I worked too hard and pushed myself too much, I developed stomach problems, lumbar disc herniation, cervical spine issues, frozen shoulder. Ethan, you can't say that. Chloe has been giving up her scholarship slots to you for the past 2 years. Her grades and overall evaluations are significantly higher than yours. Her family circumstances are difficult too. Her parents don't want her to continue studying, insisting she start working early. Every year, Chloe pays her own tuition and living expenses through part-time jobs. As classmates, we shouldn't just think of ourselves. From every perspective, Chloe is far more deserving of this scholarship than you are. The academic advisor shot me a disappointed glare, her stern eyes warning me not to speak another word. In my past life, Ethan and I held our wedding in his small hometown. Our college advisor drove for an entire day just to bring me a generous red envelope as a gift. On the wedding day, she held my hand with bloodshot eyes and said, "Chloe, you must learn to love yourself." Having lived 2 lifetimes, it was only at this moment that I truly understood the meaning behind her words. In that previous life, Ethan was the brightest light in my dark world, my salvation, and my hope. In this lifetime, I choose to be my own guiding light. We left the office each lost in our own thoughts, with Ethan stealing glance after glance at me. He frowned as he studied me carefully, his gaze probing and utterly lacking in courtesy. I finally turned around, unable to bear it any longer. "What are you looking at? Why did you suddenly change your mind?" Ethan asked tentatively. "I find it somewhat amusing, since you hold your past life in such contempt and decided to start anew. Naturally, I can't keep pampering and helping you with everything anymore." Because I was poor, Ethan blinked, looking somewhat dazed. I never cried about my hardships in front of him. No matter what happened, I would always smile and say I'm fine, I'm okay. Clearly, my behavior was completely different from before my rebirth. "Leo, you're here. Where's Leo?" I looked around and met Ethan's knowing gaze. "Chloe, you've been reborn too." I neither confirmed nor denied it, giving Ethan a long look before striding forward. "Hey, wait, Chloe, what are you angry about? Since it's come to this, let's just lay all our cards on the table." My attitude angered Ethan. After all, I had doted on him his entire previous life. Rarely had I ever been this cold toward him. Ethan and I sat on a bench by the school lake. Sunlight danced across the water's surface, as though someone had scattered flakes of gold leaf upon it. The scenery was beautiful, but I had no peace to appreciate it, because Ethan said the happiness of our past life had been stolen by me in the first place. "I've tolerated you for a lifetime and paid for my mistakes. What's wrong with pursuing someone I truly love in this lifetime?" Ethan was clearly agitated, his neck stiff as he glared at me, as if I were the root cause of all his misfortunes. Heh, I chuckled bitterly. "Ethan, if you never liked me, why didn't you say so from the start? You didn't say it in college. You didn't say it when we were about to get married. For decades, you never once brought it up. Did I hold a gun to your head to make you marry me?" Ethan grew even angrier. "Isn't this all your fault? Right after confessing your feelings, you immediately told your roommate, Dana, that big mouth, announced the news directly in the class group chat, saying I should treat everyone. If I broke up with you right away, what would everyone say about me? After we got together, everyone kept talking about how good you were to me, as if breaking up with you would instantly make me a heartless villain despised by all. Chloe, this is all because of you. You placed me on a moral pedestal, shackling me with conscience and ethics for an entire lifetime. In my memory, Ethan was strikingly handsome. His fair complexion and chiseled features made him shine brilliantly. He was the most handsome young man, middle-aged man, and elderly man I've ever seen. I squinted as I scrutinized Ethan's face inch by inch, realizing for the first time that although his skin was pale, it lacked radiance, and there were even 2 pimples on his chin. His nose, though high-bridged, was somewhat broad, making him appear slightly less delicate. The dazzling Ethan turned out to be just an ordinary student with somewhat refined features after all. The light around him came from my love, not from himself. If that's how it is, let's pretend we never met in this lifetime. From now on, don't contact me anymore. Goodbye. I stood up and walked away without looking back. Something inside me collapsed with a crash, leaving nothing but ruins in its wake. I come from an extremely patriarchal small-town family where my parents considered having a daughter a terrible waste of investment, and tried every possible means to squeeze the returns back out of me. When I was in junior high, my parents repeatedly told me that once I graduated from high school, I would immediately start working. To escape the fate of working in a factory, I studied desperately and eventually ranked first in the entire state, earning admission to a prestigious high school. The school waived all my tuition and fees and even promised to grant me a scholarship. Town officials and community leaders visited my parents several times and urged them to let me continue my education. After finishing high school, my parents said I could go to college, but I had to send $2,000 home every month. I agreed without hesitation, then made up an excuse and never contacted them again. Once the semester started, I blocked all communication with my parents. They'd never traveled far in their lives, and because they showed no concern for me, they didn't even know my specific major or class. With the town mayor's help, I finally managed to completely cut ties with my parents during college. I became a person without a home, so I desperately yearned for a family, longed to be loved. In my past life, I clung to Ethan desperately, like a drowning person grasping at driftwood. I wanted a home so badly that even when Ethan treated me poorly at times, it was still 100 times better than my parents ever had. In my hometown, I didn't even have my own room. My bed was shoved in a corner of the living room, devoid of privacy or dignity. I regarded Ethan as my salvation, and for every ounce of kindness he showed me, I would gladly repay with my life. Only now do I realize I shouldn't have sought love outside myself. I should learn to love myself. No one but yourself can be your savior. I strode forward, leaving all the past and darkness behind me. I finally got the scholarship, and the counselor said Ryan, the senior who sponsored the scholarship, wanted to meet me in person. It's him? It's actually him. I stared in astonishment at the familiar man before me. He was one of the investors in our company. After the company went bankrupt, it was him who injected funds and saved us. Later, after Ethan and I got married, he disappeared from our world. I never thought I'd see him again, and I couldn't help feeling somewhat excited. Senior Ryan, hello. Thank you so much, Senior Ryan. My overly earnest bow made him chuckle. Come on, sit down. My meeting with Ryan went very well. We even exchanged contact information, and he told me I could reach out to him for any difficulties in daily life. I walked back to my dorm with a spring in my step, knowing that even the smallest kindness deserves great repayment. Ryan had done me a huge favor in my previous life, and now in this lifetime, he was still my benefactor. I've spent my whole life in e-commerce, and now is just the nascent stage of e-commerce development. Ryan's company hasn't even started building an e-commerce team yet. I can lend him a hand, consider it repaying a favor. In a good mood, I generously bought a bag of fruits and snacks to share with my roommates back in the dorm. As soon as I returned to the dorm, I spotted 2 large bags of KFC lying on Sophia's desk. When she saw me, Sophia handed me a burger and 2 egg tarts with cheerful generosity. Here, you haven't had lunch yet, right? Eat them while they're still warm. Dana winked from the side. Eat up, it's celebration burgers. I blinked in confusion. What kind of burgers? Oh, for heaven's sake, Sophie and Ethan are together now. Sophia rolled her eyes playfully at Dana. Just eat already, even drumsticks can't shut you up. I looked at Sophia in surprise. She and Ethan were together? Sophia glanced at me with slight embarrassment. Living in the same dorm room meant we were practically together 24/7. While my crush on Ethan might have escaped others' notice, there was no hiding it from Sophia, who slept right across from me. The 2 hardest things to conceal in this world are coughs and love. Sophia smoothed her hair and laughed awkwardly. Chloe, you don't mind, do you? I flashed my most genuine smile. What are you talking about? Of course not. We're friends, nothing else matters. The past is dark and beyond recall, while the future shines bright and splendid. Ethan is just a thing of the past. All I want now is to study hard and earn money. Dinner was eaten with a relic of the past. Ethan treated our entire dorm to hot pot. At the table, he showered Sophia with attention, pulling out her chair, pouring water, peeling shrimp. Sophia was both touched and a little embarrassed. She kept glancing at me, afraid I might be upset. But I just buried my head in my rice bowl, shoveling down fatty beef, tripe, and duck feet without stopping. When Ethan and I were together, we were both poor students. I couldn't bear to spend his money, so every date was fast food, and we'd often split the bill. There weren't many times when Ethan could treat me. I had to eat as much as I could, might as well reclaim all those meals from my past life. I used to think that sincerity could be exchanged for sincerity, but now I understand, you can't trade a human heart for a dog's. When the dinner bill came, Ethan paid over $500. Normally, that would have covered most of his living expenses for half a month. In our later years, we lived comfortably, and he grew accustomed to spending lavishly. It might take him a while to reel that back in now. I wonder what will happen when he realizes money isn't so easy to come by anymore. Everyone thinks rebirth means mastering the code to wealth, but we're just sophomores now. And between the 2 of us, we can't scrape together even $1,000. Stock trading? Sure, a few blue-chip stocks might have multiplied dozens of times, but realistically, there's been little change in the short term. Buying a house is even more out of reach. We barely have enough for meals. Where would we find money for property? Ethan's family circumstances are actually similar to mine, but he's male, and the eldest son too, so his parents invested all their resources in him. That's why he's slightly better off than I am. I began spending every day in the library meticulously working on the business plan. Ryan owns a small smart home appliances company that currently only sells in major shopping malls. As an experienced e-commerce professional, I deeply understand that time equals opportunity. The earlier we enter this market, the larger slice of the pie we can claim. In our previous company venture with Ethan, I handled operations and sales while he managed customer service and factory coordination. So I took to planning like a duck to water, and within a few days, I had prepared a thick proposal. "Did you do this?" Ryan asked casually as he sat in the chair, carefully flipping through the pages of my proposal one by one. I stared at his handsome face, feeling a little nervous despite myself. In my past life, despite striving all my life and achieving modest success, at best I only lived slightly better than the average person. But Ryan is the real big fish. If I can earn his recognition and board his giant ship, my lifetime achievements will undoubtedly reach new heights. Not bad. Our team is already preparing the e-commerce department. Come intern at my company when you don't have classes. Really? Thank you, senior. I clenched my fists and gazed at Ryan with shining eyes. Perfect. All the hard work during this period has finally paid off. Hello, here's your cheesecake, vanilla milk, and strawberry waffles. This is the only coffee shop at our school gate. The prices are ridiculously high. I've only been here once before with Sophia. I stared dumbfounded as the server brought out a whole table full of desserts. Ryan smoothed the wrinkles on his sleeve and stood up, saying, "All right, I've got things to attend to. Eat up, kid. Look how skinny you are." Ryan left, taking with him the proposal I had painstakingly prepared. I curled up in my chair, nibbling small bites of cake. The cheesecake was velvety soft, filling my mouth with rich creamy notes. So sweet. "What did you say?" "Ethan asked to borrow money from you?" Dana stared at Sophia dumbfounded, and I was somewhat surprised too. After the initial shock, I couldn't help but feel a sense of understanding. This habit of Ethan's was actually fostered by me back when I was working multiple jobs intensely while he spent all his after-school hours in the library. As time went on, I actually became more financially comfortable than him, so I often slipped him money to help out. When he felt embarrassed to accept, I'd tell him to consider it a loan from me. Ethan and I were each other's first love. After getting together, we never had contact with other members of the opposite sex. Ethan probably thought borrowing money from someone as close as a partner was completely normal, just like asking a good buddy for a loan. How much did he ask to borrow? How could he even bring himself to ask? "You two haven't been together that long." Dana grabbed Sophia's arm, unable to hide her astonishment. "He didn't have much, just $1,000. Said he put all his scholarship money into stocks." Ethan never dabbled in stocks during college. If I remember correctly, it wasn't until our 40s when we were more financially comfortable that he started learning about investing and financial management. Does he actually remember the stock market fluctuations from his college days? What do you mean not much? $1,000 was nearly a month's living expenses back then. Only someone as privileged as you would think that's not much money. Sophia was also a bit unhappy. I definitely wouldn't lend him money. What kind of man asks a woman for money? If you can't afford it, then don't date. He kept buying me all sorts of things during this time, and yet turns out I'm supposed to pay for it myself? How ridiculous. I silently lowered my head and continued reading, wondering how long Ethan and Sophia's relationship would last. With no classes the next day, I woke up bright and early. Ryan's company wasn't far from campus, but taking the bus would still take over an hour. I was sitting in my seat listening to an English podcast on my phone when a familiar figure boarded the train. Ethan stormed over to me, yanked off my earphones, and shouted, "Chloe, did you put Sophie up to breaking up with me? What's his problem?" I snatched back my earphones and rolled my eyes dramatically. "Ethan, can you stay away from me? Running into you first thing in the morning is such bad luck." Ethan's beautiful pupils seemed to spit fire. "I thought we'd made ourselves clear enough that day. Sophia has always been the one I like. What we had was just a misunderstanding. Could you stop being so petty and stop trying to ruin our relationship? Are you seriously full of yourself? Who cares about ruining your relationship? You're the one who scared Sophia by asking her for money. What's any of that got to do with me?" Ethan froze. "Borrowing money? She broke up with me because of that? But what's wrong with borrowing money? It's not like I won't pay it back." I didn't respond to him. Instead, I tapped the shoulder of the guy sitting in front of me. "Hey, can I ask you something? My boyfriend of 2 weeks just asked to borrow $1,000 from me. Do you think I should lend it to him?" The guy immediately furrowed his brows. "What kind of man asks a woman for money? Get your head straight, girl. If he truly liked you, he'd rather beg on the streets than ask you for money. That's the bare minimum dignity and responsibility a man should have. Take my advice. Dump this kind of guy immediately." Ethan sat frozen in his seat, looking utterly devastated. He turned to me with dazed eyes. But didn't you used to lend me money all the time before?" I forced a humorless smile, because I was pathetic. Truth be told, I've only just realized it now. In my past life, I gave my all to Ethan's family, naively thinking I was being noble, when all I did was fatten them up at my own expense. I used to believe that if I treated others well, they would be grateful, and if they showed no gratitude, it simply meant I hadn't done enough, until reality gave me a harsh lesson. All those years of self-sacrificing devotion were, in Ethan's eyes, nothing but one of life's great regrets. Ethan silently turned his head toward the window, and for the rest of the journey, we traveled in silence, neither of us speaking. "Why are you following me?" Ethan turned his head impatiently to look at me, and I glared back at him with even greater irritation. "Who's following you? I'm going for an internship." To my surprise, Ethan and I ended up at the same company. Ryan personally received us and even assigned both of us to the e-commerce department. Ethan looked shocked when he saw Ryan. The moment Ryan left, he sneered, "Chloe, living a second life has taught you gold-digging skills. Clinging to a sugar daddy's leg now? Look who's talking." Time flies when you're working hard, and the operations team leader treated me with exceptional courtesy. At first, he called me Xiao Ku, then it became Chloe, and later Miss Chloe. I felt like if I stayed any longer, he'd start calling me Madam Chloe. Ethan didn't get the same treatment. Like all the other new interns, he was stuck doing menial tasks like printing and photocopying documents. After all, Ethan's real expertise was in after-sales service and in e-commerce. That's hardly a skill that requires much technical know-how. I was thriving in my internship. Ryan paid remarkably generous intern wages, and combined with his scholarship fund, I no longer needed to take part-time jobs to cover tuition and living expenses. Thus, I gained more time for studying, and my life became busy yet fulfilling. Although Ethan managed to secure an internship at the company through his academic advisor's connections, he didn't show up often because he spent most of his time on his romantic relationship. Through his persistent efforts, he eventually reconciled with Sophia. Ethan cherished this relationship dearly, devoting every ounce of his energy to maintaining it. Romance is an activity that demands both significant time and money. He accompanied Sophia shopping, watching movies, and dating, celebrating various birthdays, Christmases, and Valentine's Days. Money flowed like water, and gradually, Ethan began to feel the strain. He started trying to take Sophia to cheaper restaurants, but after just one visit, she argued with him. "How ridiculous is Ethan?" Sophia complained. "I spent 2 hours on my makeup, washed my hair, and put on new clothes, and he actually took me to eat spicy hot pot. That place is so greasy, just sitting there for a while leaves your clothes and hair reeking. He just looks down on me." Sophia huffed and threw her bag onto the table, her eyes reddening with anger. I was buried in my book when I heard this. Lifting my head in confusion, I asked, "Isn't hot pot fine for a date?" Sophia stepped forward and pinched my cheek. "You dummy, if he's treating me to a bowl of spicy hot pot, that means in his eyes I'm only worth a bowl of spicy hot pot. Treat me to spicy hot pot today, and tomorrow you'll have me eating plain boiled bread. Besides, if dating only means eating spicy hot pot, wouldn't I be better off staying single? What's the point of being in a relationship then? Lowering my quality of life is absolutely out of the question." Sophia's views on relationships differ greatly from mine, and my beliefs were shaken. After all, in my philosophy, being in a relationship means mutual devotion through thick and thin. What about really poor people falling in love? Sophia rolled her eyes. "If you're dirt poor, of course you'd try to earn money first. Dating costs both time and money. When you can barely afford food, how could you spare the energy for romance? And besides, if a man truly loves a woman, what kind of man would want her to suffer through hard times with him?" Seeing me standing there dumbfounded, Sophia pulled over a chair and sat down across from me, then began patiently laying out her advice. "Chloe, don't be foolish. They say men have 3 greatest joys in life: getting promoted, striking it rich, and swapping wives. Why would they want to change wives after getting rich? Naturally, it's to go after younger, prettier women. You think a man will be grateful after you've endured hardships with him his whole life? He'll just think he's amazing and charismatic. Once he's rich, the first person he'll kick to the curb is you, because you've seen him at his worst, and he can't even brag in front of you anymore. Isn't that the truth?" The first thing Ethan did after being miraculously reborn young was to replace me, his worn-out old wife. I held Sophia's hand. "If you've got something to say, then say more." In our previous lives, although we lived in the same dormitory, we rarely had time to chat. Because I was always working part-time, rushing around with a backpack between various shops near the school gate every day. I was already gone when my roommates were still asleep, and when I rushed back to the dorm just before curfew at night, they were already getting ready for bed. Life drifted along at its leisurely pace, with Sophia and Ethan quarreling every few days. As for me, I poured all my energy into studies and work. Soon summer vacation arrived, and as usual, I applied to stay in the dormitory. I hadn't returned to my parents' home for 2 years. In their previous life when they got married, they demanded $300,000 from Ethan, threatening to use a loudspeaker in his hometown if he refused to pay, so his parents would never be able to hold their heads up again. Although I ended up paying the money myself later, my parents' actions made me deeply ashamed in front of Ethan. At that time, Ethan gave me tremendous encouragement. He said although my parents were awful, he would always treat me well and promised to give me a true home. I've already repaid my parents' debt in our previous life. In this life, I owe nothing to anyone. I worked my fingers to the bone, rushing to the office even on weekends, wishing I could just sleep there. My colleagues all came to persuade me to slow down, especially our team leader. "Chloe, you're still young, but you need to take care of your health too. Are you facing some difficulties in life? Don't worry, tell me what's wrong. Anything that can be solved with money isn't really a problem at all. I declined with a mix of laughter and tears, only to have Ryan get involved in the matter. Take it, your bonus. I stared blankly at the check for $300,000. Boss, is the bonus really this much? The company was full of young people with a great atmosphere, and everyone called Ryan boss. Over time, I casually started using the nickname too. Ryan nodded. You're worth that much. Back then, many cities had apartments priced at just $3,000 to $4,000 per square meter. The bonus Ryan gave was already enough to buy an entire apartment. The head of the e-commerce department gets sales commissions. From now on, you'll receive the same percentage as Old Sue. I inhaled sharply. Old Sue was our team leader, a computer science graduate from a prestigious university. As for me, I was only entering my junior year after summer break. The key point was, these commissions were truly substantial, at minimum several $100,000 a year. I opened my mouth, torn between wanting to refuse and being unable to bear the thought, standing there with internal conflict written all over my face. Ryan walked over and gently patted my head. I told you, you're worth this much. Stumbling dazedly out of the office, I felt totally bowled over by this unexpected windfall. Could there possibly exist a more generous boss than Ryan in this world? Absolutely not. Hey Chloe, want to buy some cryptocurrency just for fun? Still floating in my dream of earning millions annually, I felt our team leader pat me on the shoulder. What kind of coin? Bitcoin. It just emerged recently. Seems quite interesting to me. Bitcoin? Bitcoin. The one that started at a few cents per coin when it first appeared, then later surged to tens of thousands of dollars per coin? So I spent the entire $300,000 check on Bitcoin, receiving a total of 500,000 coins. No need to buy too much of this stuff. It gets difficult to sell in large quantities later on. With these 500,000 Bitcoins, what else do I have to worry about in this lifetime? Suddenly, life brims with endless confidence. Since my future self is already a billionaire, what is there to fear? Of course, work is still necessary. No matter how wealthy the future holds, one must still eat and buy a home now. Bro, I finally found you. Bro. I was intently reviewing the operations report when an infant's cry abruptly echoed through the office. Ashley? Ashley, what brings you here? Ethan stood up awkwardly, his face turning bright red. Bro, something's happened at home, bro. Everyone in the office rose to their feet after all. Ashley was only 19 years old, and with her doll-like face, she looked practically like a high school student at first glance. A high schooler holding a baby in her arms, no matter how you looked at it, the scene was downright bizarre. Ethan, who is this? Ethan's face hardened as he grabbed Ashley's hand and strode outside. I suddenly remembered, something did happen to Ethan's family about a year ago. His father had fallen at a construction site and broken his leg, quite severely at that. I even helped cover part of the medical expenses back then. But why did Ashley bring the child with her? Ashley was a traditional small-town girl. She'd dropped out after high school to work and support her brother's education. After laboring for several years, she fell for a local boy and married young, starting a family early. Ethan's family had received a $100,000 bride price from the groom's side, while her dowry consisted of just 3 quilts. Life had been particularly hard for Ashley after the marriage, but she's particularly proud of her older brother who attends a prestigious school, talking about him incessantly. Young Ethan is still in middle school. With his father's accident, their family is bound to face difficulties. Sure enough, Ethan soon came upstairs with his head hanging low. Nervously, he pulled me aside. Chloe, could you lend me $100,000? I thought I must have misheard. What? Chloe, he's the father you've called dad for decades. You can't just stand by and watch him die, can you? Did a donkey kick your brain? That's your father. What's that got to do with me? Ethan took a deep breath. Then at least for the sake of our past friendship, lend me some money. I swear I'll pay you back. Get lost. Ashley, after all, was already married and had a child to raise, while Ethan's mother had to stay home to care for his younger brother and elderly relatives. So the heavy responsibility of looking after his father fell squarely on Ethan's shoulders. He started dozing off frequently at work, and his performance went completely downhill. After the summer vacation ended, the company revoked Ethan's internship qualification. Without this easy and well-paying job, Ethan had no choice but to start juggling exhausting part-time work, and naturally his academic performance took a significant downturn. Eventually, during senior year when everyone was busy job hunting or securing internships, Sophia broke up with him again. Sophia, come out here. Ethan shouted hoarsely under dormitory building with bloodshot eyes, yelling for what felt like hours. Dana and I stood on the sidelines, completely helpless. Dana's chest heaved with anger as she spat out, "Is Ethan out of his mind? Still clinging like this after breaking up? How many days has he been shouting outside now?" I looked at Ethan with undisguised contempt. Reborn into this life, yet he'd managed to sink himself to such a pathetic state. Failing at work, failing at studies, no wonder love had failed him too. People always think rebirth comes with cheat codes, that the future is guaranteed, but without effort, what future could there possibly be? Just like studying, someone who doesn't put in effort could repeat high school 10 times and still wouldn't get into a good university. The same goes for life. Being reborn only means understanding the major trends of the times and having more opportunities than ordinary people. It doesn't mean you can rest easy forever. Even if you want to make money by flipping properties, you'd still need to earn your first bucket of gold, right? However, Ethan has always been quite laid back. In our previous lives, I was the one dragging him forward, which led to many arguments between us. He enjoys fishing, painting, and drinking tea. He believes money can never be fully earned, and life needs poetic charm. As for me, I always want to stand a little taller, go a little farther, to see scenery I've never seen before. I'm so mad, running into Ethan is just my bad luck. Sophia was so angry she couldn't even eat. You have no idea how ridiculous Ethan is. He keeps telling me we should get married right after graduation. He kept saying after we got married, we'd work hard to buy a home here and eventually bring his parents to live with us. His sister was even worse. That time she visited, I treated her to a meal, and the entire time she kept telling me I should bear several sons for the Jones family, saying I'd need to serve his parents well after marriage. What, does their family have a throne to inherit? Sons, my foot. You can work to improve your financial status, but family values are hard to change. If I didn't run for it, would I be waiting around to become their maid? I bowed my head in shame. Ethan's family had said similar words to me before. Though they made me uncomfortable at the time, I hadn't taken them to heart. After Ethan persisted several times, more and more girls began talking about him. Seeing that Sophia still ignored him, he had no choice but to give up. After all, he now had to earn his own tuition and living expenses. Between attending classes and working part-time, he was quite busy. I'm grateful I didn't get completely swept up in love like Ethan did, ending up neglecting everything else in life. Ryan kept his word. By the end of our senior year, he distributed dividends, and with that money I mortgaged several apartments in prime locations, finally achieving some stability in life. Sophia remains one of my closest friends now. She passed the civil service exams, and her family bought her an apartment outright. Her life is comfortable and carefree. Many classmates stayed in the city after graduation, and among them, I somehow became the most successful one. Later I heard Ethan was still single, constantly going on blind dates, but with no car or apartment, and coming from a poor family, no decent girl wanted anything to do with him. Sophia got married to her high school sweetheart, a perfect match from equal social standing. Childhood friends turned lovers. When I walked out of the hotel after the wedding, I ran into Ethan at the entrance. He looked rather haggard, with pale stubble covering his once smooth chin. Chloe, are you laughing at me in your heart? I'm just trying to pursue my love. What's wrong with that? I chuckled lightly. Ethan, that's exactly what I thought in my past life too. With that, I drove off in my Porsche 911 without so much as a backward glance. Under the sunlight, Ethan stood desolately at the doorway watching me, lingering for what felt like an eternity. The end, Ethan's extra chapter. Sophie and I are together now, finally united with the woman I've yearned for and loved my entire life. I'm overwhelmed with emotion. It feels as though fate has granted me rebirth just to let me make up for this lost chance. It's not that Chloe isn't good, there probably isn't a more virtuous and magnanimous woman in the whole world than Chloe, but being with her was utterly exhausting. Back when I got into college, I was the pride of our town too. Ever since I was little, I've been the pride of the entire town. But after getting together with Chloe, she started eclipsing me in everything. Better at studying, better at work, better at everything than me. We started a business together. Every time I went to the factory to inspect goods or discuss business, everyone would say I'd married a great wife. They would talk about how outstanding Chloe was, how hardworking she was, how capable she was. How ridiculous it is. Obviously, I'm also outstanding, yet they make it sound like I'm living off someone else's generosity. I'm growing increasingly weary of Chloe. She's pumped up like she's on steroids every single day. Arranging the company, arranging the kids, arranging me. She'd push me to chase clients, hound me to meet quotas. He would even bluntly state during company meetings that my department failed to meet this quarter's targets. With her children, it was the same. Grades had to be pushed, piano had to be practiced, basketball had to be played. It was as if they were training for a decathlon. Being her son is truly tragic. A woman should be gentle, delicate, pure, and kind to be lovable. Just like Sophia, she knows how to wheedle, dress up, and sweetly call me Ethan. I wish I could gather the finest things just to see her smile with joy. We've been together for half a month now, and I'm starting to feel something's not quite right. Why doesn't Sophia ever pay a single time? I wouldn't mind if I had money, but after all, I'm just a student now. Although I just received a scholarship, that's my living expenses for the whole year. Back when I was with Chloe, we always split the bill. Chloe always says that men and women are equal now, with girls also working, earning money, and going to university, so you can't expect the guy to pay for everything. I think what she said makes perfect sense. After all, it's already the 21st century. It's fine if I pay a bit extra, but Sophia, surely you can't just never pay at all? And she sure spends a lot. Hot pot today, Western cuisine tomorrow, and Japanese food the day after. Ordering a whole table of dishes, then taking just a few bites of each before declaring you're full. In the end, I gritted my teeth and ate it all. After all, I simply can't stand seeing things go to waste. I hinted at Sophia several times to pick up the bill, but she played dumb. Left with no choice, I had to pay for it myself. Soon, Sophia had spent all of my money. When I asked to borrow money from her, she actually threatened to break up with me. I'm sure it was Chloe who said something. I know she still loves me, but I've lived enough of this life and have no desire to rekindle any old flames. One can only say a woman's jealousy is truly terrifying. So men aren't allowed to borrow money from women? I'm a bit confused. In my past life, Chloe kept slipping me money during my toughest times, then would heroically pat her chest and say, "Don't feel awkward, it's just a loan," though I never actually got the chance to repay her later. After all, we've become family now, so there's no need to repay anything. I opened my phone to look at Chloe's photos, only to find it packed with nothing but Sophia. Chloe, I kind of miss her. Chloe and I joined the same company for internship. Watching her radiant and energetic every day, complex emotions began to grow in my heart, even including a trace of hatred. In our past life, you kept professing how much you loved me, making grandiose declarations. She seems perfectly happy living without me now. I started deliberately targeting Chloe, saying things that even I found utterly bewildering with passive-aggressive sarcasm each time. Chloe went from being angry at first to completely ignoring me later. I started panicking a little. Hatred isn't the opposite of love, indifference is. Chloe has started ignoring me. She gets along well with her colleagues, and many of them have even started setting her up on dates. As an intern, she's become the team leader's most valued member. Even Ryan can't help but steal glances at her frequently. For the first time, I realized, it turns out Chloe is also someone who shines brilliantly. Sophia is so clingy. I'm starting to feel a bit annoyed. Doesn't she have anything of her own to do? And every time she reaches out, it's basically just to get me to pay for things. I'm finding her harder and harder to tolerate. We've started arguing frequently. Finally, Sophia broke up with me again, and this time, it's probably beyond saving. I shouted Sophia's name every day under her dormitory building. Truth be told, I wasn't that attached to her. It's just that I had ruthlessly abandoned Chloe to pursue her. If I can't make it work with Sophia, then my whole life would be nothing but the biggest joke. To be with Sophia, I gave up my studies, my internship, and Chloe too. I'm a bit lost. With the golden finger of rebirth, why am I living worse than my previous life? All the money I invested in the stock market is gone. Those future blue chip stocks ended up wiping me out completely. Holding on to them would surely pay off later, but it doesn't solve my immediate crisis. I started working part-time every day, dedicating all my time to side jobs. Was Chloe working this hard in her past life too? How did she manage to balance work and grades back then? I find myself missing Chloe more and more frequently. I heard she got promoted, bought a house, and is now the top favorite around Ryan. My parents always urge me to get married, and colleagues occasionally start enthusiastically arranging blind dates for me. I don't want to get married, and I don't want to go on blind dates either. Those girls are all so arrogant, utterly mediocre yet brimming with opinions about me. In their eyes, being born in a small town and having one brother after another are all unforgivable sins. How ridiculous. They can't even hold a candle to Chloe's little toe. What gives them the right to look down on me? I began pouring all my energy into work. Grabbing a coat at random, I dashed downstairs toward the dormitory. It turns out, it wasn't her relying on me for a lifetime, but actually her shielding me all along. I heard Sophia is getting married, and I'm so excited. She's getting married, Chloe will definitely come, won't she? Sure enough, I spotted Chloe, dressed in a tailored suit, looking crisp and professional, every inch the formidable businesswoman. She's so dazzling, even more radiant than the sun hanging high in the sky. I didn't want to show weakness in front of her, so I casually changed the subject. Chloe said that in her previous life, she was also wholeheartedly pursuing her own love. I pretended to look at her with nonchalance, but my heart felt like it was being tightly clenched, the pain making it hard for me to breathe. In the end, I lost my moon. End of book.